They say winning ain't everything. Well, we don't have them type conversations over here, man. Had that conversation with the losers. We trying to win at everything we do. Even in the loss, we don't see defeat. We see a lesson learned. Straight up. Look, I came into this world in 1978. The doc looked me in my face and knew I was something great. 45, 42 Prescott, that's where I'm from. Grew up in the slums around dope dealers and bums. As humble as I was, I adapted to my habitat. In my own lane though, far from where they crashing at. Dumb bar graduate, the game I'd have mastered it. Served in the Navy, look, y'all don't know the half of it. Pops passed in '01, moms passed last year. I know they up in heaven smiling down, crying mad tears, cause they son making it. No telling where I'm taking it. My city been cursed, but I feel that I'm breaking it. Coached at Wayne High in 15 in one state. Seen the fork in the road and went straight. I know what I'm worth, I'm OG King Kirk. Brooklyn Nets gaming crew legend, let's work.
Hey, this is OG King Kurt, your host of the OG2CENTS Podcast. Want to thank each and every one of you who continue to tune in each and every Sunday. We truly appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share it. And also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure you give us a 5-star rating. It helps us out a lot. The links will be available in the description for all available streaming platforms. Let's continue to stand up against any forms of social injustice and racism, and let's spread love and not hate. Also, as we wrap up this month of May, let's continue to be concerned about mental health. Check on your loved ones, check on your friends. Take care of yourself. Because it's truly important. We've had a lot that's been going on in the world with the pandemic and just everyday things as well. So just always make sure that you look out for yourself and take mental health very serious. This episode is brought to you by Zenni Blocks. Make sure to armor your eyes with Zenni Blocks Virtual Clear Blue Blockers. It's important to protect your eyes from the harmful blue light from your digital screens, so you'll have less eye strain, and that makes for better sleep and performance. Check them out at zenni.com/gaming or follow them at Zenni Gaming on Twitter and Instagram. This episode 63, one-on-one with Kris. Kristian Cuaresma is a content creator who was born and currently resides in Toronto, Canada. He went to school for journalism and broadcasting with hopes of covering traditional sports and esports in some capacity. A year ago, he covered the NBA 2K League for GameHER, producing written content and a podcast. He also provided content for Raptors Uprising GC that eventually led to opportunities with NAPX, WR, ShootMoreThrees, ADBA, and a coaching role with the Philippines national 2K team in the most recent FIBA Open. This season, he's joined NetsGC as an official team writer. As you know, I don't like to do too much talking. So without further ado, Kristian Cuaresma. Kristian, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Kurt. Thanks for asking. It's I appreciate you bringing me onto the show. It feels like just the other day where, you had first called me and we first spoke, and I was calling you Ivan, nonstop, and and you told me to chill with it. So, but now we're here, and it's good to be here, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. I always say if you call me Ivan, man, that means you really know me. So
I didn't know you. I didn't know you at all. I was just thinking, okay, first name on the email, let's just go with that. I want to be super respectful, but I'm glad you eventually, like, you gave me a little bit of leeway, a little bit of a leash there at first, and then you like set down the line and told me what to do there, and I was like, okay, cool. It was a funny moment.
Yeah, all good, man. Like everything I mentioned in the intro, I just want you to just basically tell us your story and how you got to where you are.
Yeah, for sure. I guess really for me, I guess I'll start with just like who I am for those who don't know me. Um, Currently reside out of Toronto, Canada. I was born here as well. My parents are both from the Philippines, and so being part of a family with parents who immigrated into the country, has its ups and downs and challenges. But I was very lucky to kind of be raised in the household that I was raised in. I have three other siblings. I'm the eldest. But the one thing, like anytime I meet someone, and even if I don't tell them, they soon figure it out. But I'm very athletic, and I know where it came from. Like I was raised in a very athletic household, a very uber competitive family. We played every sport possible, and I think it was because my dad and my mom were trying to figure out very early if there was any like professional athletic ability in any of us. And unfortunately for them, there was not. But we're athletic in comparison to our peers. And but yeah, they got us into like every sport possible. Being in Canada, hockey was unavoidable, and so I played that early on. But once my siblings and brothers and sisters started coming into the family, hockey got too expensive, and so we naturally gravitated towards soccer, basketball, where you just need a pair of sneakers and a ball to really get going. But yeah, everything was always kind of competitive. um Especially with my eldest, like the brother after me, the second eldest in the family. We used to compete, not just with sports, man. Like we would compete to see who could eat dinner the fastest. We compete to, my mom, very smart of her, would try to get us to race with cleaning up our room. And but everything was always kind of competitive. And so that's kind of like who I am as a person. And obviously it just kind of flowed into my interest as I got older, in terms of following the NBA, the NFL, and just kind of making me who I am right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, you went to journalism school, broadcasting, things of that nature. What, how was that?
Yeah, it's again, just kind of speaking from, and this is a very like stereotypical response, but growing up in a family with immigrant parents, especially from the Philippines, they have their own dreams and visions for you growing up. And I know for my mom and my dad, they wanted me to be this stereotypical lawyer and or doctor, and for very good reasons. But I was it wasn't really kind of my thing, Kurt. Like I was a big reader at an early age, like and I think it also probably stemmed from like a competition. Like I remember there were like reading competitions where you had to log your pages, how many you read every month, and kind of submitted that. And my uncle would bring me these Archie comics every time he came to visit, and I was so excited. So I was reading everything, and then obviously that evolved into a love for writing. I remember writing stories for school assignments and always getting super amped about that, and entering a writing contest. And I would write for fun. Like that's where it got to a point for me where I was writing for fun at an early age. And my delusional self at the age of 10 was thinking, oh, I could maybe be some kind of child prodigy author. Does that exist, kind of thing? And so I remember doing chores for my mom, vacuuming the same stair for like 5 minutes, just trying to map out like different stories I could write. So I always kind of loved that. And it didn't really click in for me that it could be more than just a hobby. Like it didn't, the moment I realized that maybe it could be a defining part of my skill set, was midway through high school. My English teacher really kind of explained that it could be something that I could be, decent at or good at. And so after high school, I went to school for, like you said, journalism and broadcast. I wrote for the school newspaper. I covered the sports teams there. And then that, evolved into the podcasting side of things. The first ever show I did in school was a show called Hoops and Hip Hop. And then another show I did, which was my favorite to this day, it was called One on One. And it was a sports show with a very good friend of mine, Jeff Budgel. And it was one of the first times I really got to develop that part of, my interest and my passion. And to this day, that experience, that show One on One, that experience has stayed with me. And it explains why across all social media, my handle has that One on One in front of my name. So in terms of like the school experience, that's pretty much it. I love storytelling. Even for the fantasy leagues, I'm the commissioner. I'm the commissioner of 2 fantasy leagues. And in those leagues, I put together little write-ups and power rankings for the people in those fantasy leagues, and nobody else sees it but those people. And I get attached to just people getting invested in something you can kind of put together and watch them unravel it. And so, yeah, that's pretty much how my passion for journalism kind of came about, and then where I've gone with that since.
Yeah, I kind of smiled about that because I'm thinking in my head is like, when are you not writing? Like, it seems like you always writing, and doing a lot of content and write-ups for a lot of different people. So I'm like, man, when are you not writing?
Yeah, no, it's been, and obviously this has been, in terms of writing nonstop, this has probably been the most I've written in quite some time. Something that not a lot of people don't know is I actually went back to school last fall. I was at a point where I wasn't sure, where I was kind of going or what I wanted to do. And I wanted a backup plan in place. And so I went back to school, just to kind of go over different credits and grades that I knew I could be better at. And so, this past fall, thankfully, it actually prepared me for what I'm doing with NetsGC and WR and, all these other people. School really prepared me recently for getting back into the habit of constantly writing, constantly reading. And so I feel like it is a lot for sure, but I'm prepared for it. And obviously, writing's a passion. So it doesn't feel like work.
Now that you mentioned, doing some work for the WR, and that kind of is a great segue leading into my next question, is that you come from a long line of community writers. I mean, some damn good ones too. I mean, it leads me to ask, how did you get connected with the great guys at Dimer 2K?
Yeah, and I'm pumped that this is one of the questions because it's one of my favorite stories to tell. Anytime I get a rare chance to tell it, and so season 1 of the NBA 2K League, I stumbled on it and I wanted to get involved, and so I was Googling just different little websites that may have been covering it, and I came across this website called Pace and Space, or Space and Pace Odyssey. And it was a website put together by Josiah, and this was pre-Dimer. And I remember, contacting the person who made it, and this obviously being Josiah, and I didn't think anything of it. The very next day I went into work and I got an email back from him. And I remember coming home from work and showing my girlfriend the email. I was like, oh man, this guy, like, I had no idea who he was at the time, but this guy, he's written for TSN, which is, the equivalent of ESPN here in Toronto, Canada. He's written for Operation Sports. And it was a huge deal. And I'm actually not sure, Kurt, if Josiah even knows this, but I still have access to that website to this day. Like, I can log into the WordPress account and play around with it. But so that was my first contact with him. And I only wrote 2 articles for him. But with the time I got into the 2K League, it was already, it was maybe a day or two before. It was the evening. No, yeah. The NBA 2K Finals was just about to be played that weekend, Knicks and Heat Check. And so I only wrote 2 articles. I actually revisited the site today. It was a film room article on Heat Check's sets that they run out of 5-out. And it was an article about recapping the Knicks winning the championship. And so the Knicks article is titled something like Second Chances. Goofy's second chances lead to championship. And which is very ironic because after that wrapped up, that season of 2K League wrapped up, I stopped following the 2K League. So the only season I wasn't a part of was season 2 when T-Wolves when the T-Wolves gaming won. And so I moved away from the 2K League. I came back in season 3. A big reason for that was the pandemic, right? Sports were all, I think that there was a big influx of people who wanted to get interested in the league. And all sports were canceled, but the 2K League was ready. They were ready to go. And so I got back into it. I didn't want to reach out to Josiah again because I was so embarrassed about leaving the way I left. And so I just started doing my own stuff again. I, tweeted about, naturally being from Toronto and I'm a huge Raptors fan, I just started tweeting about the Raptors Uprising. I started creating content around that team. And then out of nowhere, I get a message from Josiah unprompted, and I owe him so much, and bless his heart, because he reached out to me and was gracious enough to do that. And he said, "Hey man, I see you're back into covering the league. Would you be interested in writing for Dimer again?" And I jumped at it. And, it was at that opportunity, I met Fox, who's a tremendous friend of mine today. We grinded that entire season together. Season 3, I kind of earned Josiah's trust, Will's trust, got to, interact with Len. And so that's my Dimer experience. And to this day, like, even in that one full season that we worked together, like, the one thing I'll always remember about Josiah is anytime Fox and I put our opinion on the table, he would challenge it. He would try and poke as many holes as possible just to kind of test us. And because he knows, like, the crowd and the audience, they can get vicious sometimes. And so, I'll forever be like, and I relied on him for a lot of advice early on, but I think, if I continue to kind of progress, in the league, Josiah giving me that first opportunity, and then more importantly, that second chance, will be something I'll always be thankful for.
No, that's a great story. And leading to you starting your own content and then getting the opportunity to work with Raptors Uprising, that had to be a ultimate feeling for you. How did that come about? And talk about your experience in working with Raptors Uprising.
Yeah. It was an unreal experience because, as I had mentioned earlier, I just started tweeting about them at first. It was the very, very sensible choice for me to kind of align myself with the home team. In season 1, I really hadn't paid attention to the Raptors because, again, it was only really Knicks Gaming and Heat Check Gaming that were still playing at that time. And season 2, I missed out on. So season 3, I'm like, okay, let's go. Raptors Uprising, Toronto home team. And so I first connected with them. So I on my own, I put together a series of YouTube videos called Film Room Rundown, and centered around the Raptors Uprising. And actually the first video I ever did, might have been the second actually, but one of the videos I enjoyed doing was about Legit, who's on NetsGC now. And so I did that. And then I did a video about their full court press, which, as everybody knows, was crazy in season 3. And a couple days later, I got an email from, the Raptors content team, and they had seen my work and they wanted to see if there was a possibility for me to kind of do stuff for them on an official manner. And so, before I knew it, I was, had a call scheduled with Shane, the content team, with Colton and Ryan, and we had put together this plan, or sorry, they had put together this plan for me to break down some of their defensive plays. No one really knows this, but I remember thinking, okay, because the pandemic had hit and some people were already beginning to work from home while others were not sure about it, at least in the Toronto area. And some of them were still working from the office. Myself, I was working from home, and I worked 12 to 9 that day. And the Raptors wanted to meet around like 2 or 3. And I had a meeting with my current employer that day as well. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to fake like some kind of break or something. But I was working from home, so I was like, okay, I got this. I was telling my girlfriend, no, I can do this. I'm working from home. They're not. It's fine. And then around an hour just before our meeting, I had to be called into the office for emergency reasons. So now I'm like freaking out. This is my first really experience and interaction with a 2K League team. I didn't want to mess it up. And so I remember, my girlfriend drove me into the office, and I had to facilitate this last minute training. And I remember pausing the training and taking that call in a separate boardroom to meet Raptors Uprising. And so, that was how I met them. And we ended up working for a portion of season 3, and then obviously here in season 4. But yeah, it just it kind of, again, very surreal, because I've always dreamt about being part of the Raptors, or the traditional NBA Toronto Raptors organization. So it was fun to kind of mix that, and then also my evolving passion for the NBA 2K League. And I've always, what I do for them is just kind of study film. I love that. I record every Raptors game, and I'll even watch some of the games we lose just to kind of figure out what happened. Or I'll bring up the random YouTube clip and I'll watch certain sequences back of just traditional NBA ball. So to be able to do that for the NBA 2K League was just, again, surreal.
No, and what I like about that story is it shows, your dedication, and what I always say is you have to risk making mistakes in order to be great. And you took a chance on yourself. I mean, because at any point in time, I mean, obviously you was doing things for your current employer at the time, but it easily could have backfired on you one way or the other. But you took that chance and made something happen for yourself, and that's definitely what you have to do in order to when you're chasing your dreams or chasing your passion and doing what you love to do. So, I want to say shout out to Shane and Raptors Uprising GC and their content team, because everybody knows that they are the standard in the 2K League at the moment, and a lot of us we're just chasing them at the moment. But they do a great job at producing content, unlike any other. So shout out to Raptors Uprising GC. Now leading into your present your position with us.
Yes.
Glad to have you. Very talented. Talk about your experience once you got the notification that we wanted you to be our team writer.
Yeah, actually, it's such the whole journey between seeing the post YL put out to being here with you is just so funny and crazy to me, because I didn't really see the initial post from YL. It actually was brought to my attention by a group of content creators and friends, and I'm very lucky to have them, to have their ear. You're very familiar with them, with India, Fox, Harris, Landis. They brought it to my attention, and actually India ended up throwing my resume and my website as a comment under YL's post, and was like, okay, check this out. And I probably wouldn't be where I am right now without them. And I know it's cliche, but they definitely have kind of pushed me every step of the way. And I had mentioned my previous employer. I've been with them for 5 to 6 years. And there's when you get that sense of comfort, it's nice, but it can also be very dangerous at times, especially when where you're working doesn't by nature fully take advantage of what you love to do. And so, Fox pushed me really hard for that WR opportunity. India, again, threw my resume on there. And so, so thank you to them first and foremost. But with you guys, I applied, I sent in my application to YL, I ended up following up with YL. I got worried because I heard back from him when I followed up. But it wasn't a yes or a no. So you're in that limbo moment where you're very nervous and unsure about it. It's very anxiety inducing. And then I got an email from you, Kurt, asking for examples of my work. So I was still in this limbo mode, but I'm like, oh, this is the second step of it. So I got excited, but I didn't want to get my hopes up too high. But I do know the very exact moment I found out. And I was on that morning, I was meeting with an esports organization overseas in Asia, specifically in the Philippines. I had helped out with this organization oversees the Philippines national team that won gold in the FIBA Open. And so I helped out with them, had a good experience with them, and they invited me over to kind of work with their organization in some capacity. And my very first meeting with them was that morning. The very minute, I kid you not, the very minute that Zoom call ended, I got an email from Alton Bird and telling me, oh, I'd been officially brought on to NetsGC. And so I walked upstairs, found my girlfriend, and naturally she's like, okay, well, how did the meeting go with the esports organization? I was like, it went great, and I just showed her my phone on the stairs. I was like, I think I also just got the NetsGC job. And I wasn't able to digest both things happening at once. And I was very overwhelmed, but very, very excited. And I was so pumped. And I remember you calling me on NetsGC Media Day. It was the very, very first time we spoke. I was working with my previous employer that day as well. And I remember taking that phone call and was like thinking, oh, like, do I need to be working today for Media Day? Like I'm like, I don't want to mess up my first day on the job, but that you calmed me down and you told me, we were going to meet. You're excited to have me. And no, it's been a fast forward today. It's been a fun process. We're only just at the beginning, but I felt like it's been such a good learning experience, kind of, working with you and working with Shannon. And no, I'm so grateful and thankful, man.
No, definitely. I mean, and it's twofold. I mean, we're glad to have you. YL was definitely played a role in letting us, recognize your talent. So, I mean, shout out to him for he has a great eye for talent, whether it's 2K or anything. So he played a big role in that too. Speaking about the Philippines. 2K experience as far as a coaching role and different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
How was that?
It was really cool. Like it's the most interesting aspect of it was the 12-hour difference between Eastern time and the time over there. And so I knew with FIBA being announced, the FIBA Open 3 being announced, I wanted to be involved. And so I had reached out to them, and it was my first ever real professional go at, scouting NBA 2K action, game planning, providing notes, tracking data, organizing information like that. But it was an awesome kind of, first crack at it. And again, it was having to, because they played their games. I had to wake up at like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. Eastern time to be able to watch their games live. And I remember, texting in the dark and sending them info and being on the edge of my seat because a lot of their games were very close and they ended up winning gold. And so, no, it was great. And they taught me a lot. And I was able to kind of, learn some things about myself and the experience and just kind of, again, immersing myself in NBA 2K, not just in terms of covering it, but being able to kind of scratch that competitive itch as well. So no, I had a blast. It's something I definitely kind of want to do again. Not just for them, but for anyone.
Got you. Now, at this point of the show, it's called OG Wants to Know. Rapid fire questions, answer open and honestly as possible. Biggest influence?
Kobe Bryant, and Masai Ujiri.
Okay.
Yeah.
What motivates you?
Like a fear of regret and looking back on things and wishing you had done things differently, and also my girlfriend, because she intentionally challenges me and attempts to ground me in a very loving way, and I'm sometimes can be like a very, very needy for praise, and she like cuts that off, and so I definitely need that as well. So big influence.
Gotcha. That sounds like words of affirmation. Heavy.
Yeah, so that's my love language.
Right. I can relate, brother. I can relate. Biggest accomplishment?
Most recently, going back to school and kind of proving to myself that, I can be better than what I am now. I ended up averaging 90 in this past year, which was something I'd never done previously. And then from like a current career standpoint, we're working with NetsGC for sure.
Okay. Favorite sports team?
I am, anybody that knows me, I know that I am the biggest Raptor fan they know.
Got you. Favorite quote?
So there's a quote from Kobe Bryant. It's something like, if you want to be great at something, or if you want to be great in an area, you have to be obsessive, or you have to obsess over it.
Got you. Favorite book to read?
Favorite book to read right now, I'm reading a book by Nick Nurse. He's the head coach of the Toronto Raptors. He had authored that, and then there's also reading. It's called Shoe Dog. It's a book by the founder of Nike. So that's probably what I'm reading right now, and probably my favorites.
Got you. Favorite genre of music?
Okay, yeah, I'm all over the place with this. Like, I like hip hop, I like pop, but again, my friends know I have a very special soft place for like 90s R&B, or like anything with like an old school Motown sound to it. So like Earth, Wind and Fire, or like Marvin Gaye, or Stevie Wonder kind of realm.
Got you. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
Favorite movie of all time?
Yeah, I have two. So there'd be Children of Men featuring Clive Owen, and Stranger Than Fiction, which is a non-comedy of Will Ferrell's.
Got you. Favorite athlete?
It'd probably be a two-way tie between, the previously mentioned Kobe Bryant and Vince Carter, who had a huge influence on me as a child.
And favorite journalist?
Favorite journalist? I'm biased towards like Woj, just because I envy his ability to kind of earn everybody's trust and break news as well. But I am also there's a writer here that works, or just a journalist here in Toronto. Her name is Kayla Gray, and there's also one called named Kate Byrnes. Two phenomenal women who cover Raptors, the Toronto Raptors, and are at the forefront of Toronto sports.
Got you. What's next for Kristian Cuaresma?
I think it's really important for me that I kind of continue to learn more about myself, the league, NetsGC, the players, just how everything kind of operates within this space. Very new when it comes to this. If you take away my season 1 experience, I've only really have 1 year under my belt. So again, learning that and kind of continuing to kind of earn your trust, Kurt, the NetsGC's players' trust, Shannon's trust as well. It's really, really important for me to kind of learn something every day and not make the same mistake twice. I have again, we mentioned that competitive itch. Like that constantly needs my attention. And so, years down the road, like 5-10 years from now, I'd like ideally to have been in some capacity or another have been part of an organization that has won a championship in each of like the NBA 2K League, the G League, the WNBA, and the NBA. Like when all is said and done, I would have liked to win as a part of that organization in all those leagues.
I can get that, and we will do our damnness to try to make sure.
Yeah, check that one off.
That we can make that happen on the 2K side of things. Let people know how they can follow you and what you do.
Yeah, for sure. I can be followed across most social platforms at one-on-one Kris, specifically on Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube. Soon to be TikTok, hopefully, when I get around to that. And then actually I can be searched on Facebook. I have a Facebook page now, Kristian Cuaresma. That's Charisma spelled Cuaresma. And actually Christian spelled with a KR. I always kind of forget to highlight that as well. And then my resume and some, examples of my work can be found on my personal website at kristiancuaresma.com.
Well, Kristian, definitely appreciate you coming on the show. Keep up the great work. And of course, I'll definitely be in touch.
Yes, for sure. I'm excited.
And for everybody watching this episode on YouTube, just remember to hit that subscribe button and like it and comment and share it. We definitely appreciate it. If not, make sure you subscribe to all the major streaming platforms that we're on. That's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Definitely follow the OG2CENTS Podcast on social media. That's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at the OG2CENTS Podcast. Follow myself, OG King CURT, on social media. That's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at OGKINGCURT. Shout out to my team, Strider Visuals, Box Graphics, Cy Evermore, and Matrix for help making the show what it is today. Definitely wouldn't be where I am without those guys. So I definitely appreciate each and every one of them. Make sure you stay in tune with EsportsXTRA. We haven't been on lately, but definitely we'll be back in a couple of weeks. You can find us at twitch.tv/Compete Forever. And like I said, we'll be back here shortly. Make sure that you catch next week's episode. And remember, if it makes sense, it's an OG2CENTS. OG out.
Put this work in, fellas. And much, much, much love to the entire 2K community for always showing me love. Without y'all, we wouldn't be here. Yeah.